Hello, welcome to the next video. What we're looking at now is combining fractions. So this is something you'll have done a bit of before. Definitely do it in S1, and you should have done a little bit of it every year since. But it is something people forget about quite often and struggle with. Now, for Nat 5 apps, we want to be able to combine multiple fractions, sometimes 3 or 4 of them. So we could have really easy ones, which is these are the first types of combining fractions you'll have ever done. So if we had 2 twelfths plus 5 twelfths, well, that gives us 7 twelfths. Okay? Because if the bottoms of the fractions are the same, we just add together the top. If I've got 2 parts of something that's split into 12, plus 5 parts of something that's split into 12, then I've got 7 parts of that something. Okay? And that's easy to do. But what we need to be able to do is combine fractions where the bottom of them, the denominator, doesn't match. So for example, we want to be able to combine 1/3 plus 1/4 plus 1/6 and combine these 3 fractions together. And because the denominators don't match, we can't just add them up. We need to do more than that to it. And so what we have to do is we need to change each of these fractions into another fraction, into an equivalent fraction. So that means changing it so it's written in another way but still represents the same amount. And so we need to find a number that we can change the bottom of each of these into that they all have in common. And so the way to do this is to find the lowest common multiple of each of these numbers. And that means the lowest number they all have in common if you sort of counted up in them. So let's count up here in multiples of 3. That's going to give us 3, 6, 9, 12, and then we'll go to 15. Counting up in the 4s, that would give us 4, 8, 12, 16. And then if I was to look at the 6, counting up in 6s, that would give me 6, 12, 18, 24. So what I'm looking for is the smallest multiple that they all have in common. And we can see that they all have 12 in common. Okay? They all have 12 in their multiples. So look, the 3rd and the 6th, they both have 6 in their multiples, but that isn't in the quarter. And the 6 and the quarter, they both have other things in the multiples if we went further on, but that wouldn't be in the 3rd. So we're looking for the lowest thing they all have in common. And once you've found that lowest thing they all have in common, we're going to change each of these fractions so that they're in twelfths instead of what they are in. So let's write this down again then. And what we want to do then is look at what we have to do to our fraction to turn it into twelfths. So to turn this into 12 on the bottom, well, I need to times that by 4, don't I? And whatever I do to the top of the fraction, whatever I do to the bottom of the fraction, I have to do to the top as well. So if I times the bottom of this by 4, I have to times the top of it by 4 as well. So that means then 1 times 4 is 4, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now let's look at our next one. What do I have to do to this 4 to make it be 12? Well, I have to times it by 3. So if I times the bottom by 3, I have to times the top by 3 as well. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. So 1/4, that's the same as 3 twelfths. And then let's look at this last one. What do I have to do to turn the 6 into a 12? Well, I have to times that by 2. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top as well. And then 1 times 2 is 2. 6 times 2 is 12. And now that these all match on the bottom, we can just add the tops together. So 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 2 is 9. And there we go. A third plus a quarter plus a sixth is 9 over 12. If we wanted to, we could simplify this down. So what number do they have in common? Well, I could divide both of these by 3, couldn't I? And if I divided those both by 3, that would give me 3 over 4. And there we go. Now, I didn't ask you to simplify it, so you don't need to, but just be aware that you can simplify your fractions. So let's look at a couple more examples of this. I'm going to pause for a second, and then I'm going to write down some examples. We've got 2 examples down here. Let's zoom in on this one first. So we've got a half plus a fifth plus 2 tenths. So first, let's find what the lowest common multiple these share in common is. So let's count up in 2's here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. We'll just go that far now so I can show you something else. Now let's count up in 5's here. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and then here, got 10, 20, 30, 40. So, we're looking for the lowest number these all share. And so, we can see here, okay, 5, nope, 10. Well, yes, 10 is on this one, it's in this one, and it's in this one. So I could change these all into tenths quite easily. Now, what I wanted to show you was, if I'd gone a little bit further here in counting up in 2's, I'd go to 18 and 20, you'd see that they'd now also have 20 in common. So I could, if I wanted to, change them all into 20ths, and that wouldn't be wrong. It would just mean I'd then probably have to simplify when I get to the end. So let's do this then. And if I want to change this into tenths, what do I have to do to 2 to change that to 10? I'll have to times it by 5. So that means I need to times the top by 5 as well. So that means a half is the same as 5 over 10. Now let's look at this one. What do I have to times the 5 by to get 10? Well, I have to times it by 2. What do I times the top by? Well, I have to times it by the same. So then 1 times 2 is 2. 5 times 2 is 10. And then this final one, what do I have to times this by to get it to be 10? Well, it already is. So I don't need to change this one because it's already in tenths. So then I just have them as they are. So 5 tenths plus 2 tenths is 7 tenths, plus another 2 tenths is 9 tenths. And there we go. That's our final answer for having those combined. Now let's have a look at the next one here. And so again, we're going to count up, look at our multiples of them. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12. You don't normally need to go very high, so do a handful of the multiples for each. And if you haven't found anything in common, just add a few more to your row. So here we've got 6, 12, 18, already getting quite high there. And then for this one, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8. So if you do enough practice of these, you'll get to realize what the lowest common multiple is going to be anyway. So just looking at this, well, I knew that both 2 and 3 go into 6. So that the lowest common multiple, that's on all 3 lists here, is 6. That's the lowest number that's on all 3 lists. So I can change each of these fractions into sixths really easily and combine them. So here, what do I have to do to this 2 to change it into sixths? Sorry, what do I have to do to this 3 to change it into sixths? Well, I have to times it by 2. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 1 times 2 is 2, 3 times 2 is 6. Then let's have a look at this one. What do I have to do to change this 6 into 6? Well, nothing. This is already in sixths, so I don't need to change it. That will stay as it is. And then finally here, what do I need to do to this 2 to change it into 6? Well, I times it by 3. Whatever I do to the bottom of a fraction, I have to do to the top. So then 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6. Now these are all the same on the bottom, I can just add them together. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So my final answer there with those combined is 7/6. Now, it's not enough that we know how to combine these. Quite often, what they want us to do is something in a little bit more context and work out maybe what fraction of something is missing. So I'm just going to rub these out and I'm going to write sort of an exam style question down for you, and then we'll have a look at that. So here we have a more exam style question. So a quarter of a class have blonde hair, 2/8 have brown hair, and a third has black. The rest of a class has red hair. What fraction are redheads? So first, we want to find out what fraction of a class is represented so far with the blonde, brown, and black. So what we want to do is add together the quarter who have blonde, plus the 1/8 who have brown, and the third who have black. And so let's go through and let's find out what our lowest common multiple of these is going to be. So let's count up in 4s here. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. Then let's count up in 8s. That's 8, 16, 24, 32. And let's count up in thirds. That's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and 24. And so we're looking for the lowest number. That's in all three lists. Well, here we've got 8 and 8, but there's no 8 here. We've got 16 and 16. There's no 16 here. We've got 12 and 12, but no 12 here. But here we've got 24 in this list, 24 here, and 24 here. And so that means we can turn each of these into 24ths relatively easily and then go from there. So let's do that. What do I need to do to turn 4 into 24? I need to times it by 6. So I have to do that to the top as well. So that means 1/4 is the same as 6/24. What do I have to do to turn the 8 into 24? Times it by 3. So let's do the top there as well. So that means 2/8 is the same as 6/24. Of course, 1/4 and 2/8 are also equivalent. And then what do I have to do to turn this 3 into 24? Well, I have to times it by 8. So let's do the same to the top. So that means 1/3 is the same as 8/24. So if we combine those, I've got 6/24 plus 6/24 is 12/24, plus 8/24 gives me 20/24. Now I can simplify this, so let's do that. What number do they have in common? Well, I could divide both of these by 4. And if I do that, divide that by 4 is going to give me 5. Divide that by 4 is going to give me 6. So, with blonde, brown and black hair, that makes up 5/6 of the class. But what we're actually asked here is if the rest of the class has red hair, what fraction is red-headed? So, the whole class, it would be 1 whole, or 6/6. So if 5/6 are everything else, that must mean there's only 1/6 left to be red hair. And 1/6 have red hair, because if I combine that with a 5/6 from the rest of the class, I get 1 whole. Okay, so hopefully that was all understandable. If not, you know how to get in touch with me. Thanks for watching.